Endeavor students, I'm making this quick video just as a brief tutorial of how to log into Plato and how to navigate Plato. Even if you have already done Plato at your homeschool or you've done Plato here in Endeavor, it might just be good to listen in. I'm going to make this video as short as possible and just kind of, relearn the process or learn the process altogether. Your teacher, hopefully, if you're in a computer academy class, or you may just want to write on the side how to get on Plato, you can type in this URL. However, the better URL that I've used for students is ple, so ple.platoweb, platoweb.com, and it should take you to this site. I know it doesn't say Plato. Plato used to be the term for this. However, now it's called Inventum, but we still refer to it as Plato, not the Plato that you play with or the Greek philosopher, but this thing. When you are on for account login, you are always going to put CCSD17. As for your username should be your Cherry Creek School username, but don't put in the full thing like at cherrycreekschools.org. Just put in, like, for example, my email is ACARROLL10 at cherrycreekschools.org. I put in for my username acarol10. So just pretty much your Cherry Creek email without the at blah blah. Your password should always be your student ID number. If you have tried to log in and it's not working, the password's all wonky, get a hold of me or your computer academy teacher or whoever's in charge of Plato in your cohort and or your counselor. I have no problem, even if you're not in my cohort, if you add yourself to my Remind. So let's just get started. When it says you're in class, click yes, even if you're at home. And it should look something like this, especially if you have 2 new classes or 1 new class. Most of you should only have about 1 class. For some of you might be in 2 because you're almost done with 1, or you only need it for a quarter credit, or whatever the case may be. Mostly all of you will be taking consumer math, and a lot of you will also be taking structure writing. We also call it writer's workshop. This counts. Structure writing counts as a English credit. Consumer math can count as a math credit, and or both of them can count as an elective credit as well. So what I always recommend to students is to click on all activities instead of select new activity, because if you do select new activity, it's going to take you through this orientation and the syllabus and blah, 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 when really you can just get started on the pretest. So the pretest should be always the first thing that you see, especially for classes like consumer math or structure writing. A lot of the science classes are set up like this. Almost all the social studies classes are also set up like this, where there's a pretest for every unit. So you want to start with unit 1. I wouldn't suggest you go all the way down here. Start up top. You click play. Now, I'm letting you know, because I'm sure a lot of you are rolling your eyes at this, especially for consumer math. The pretest for consumer math has 52 questions, and I know that's a lot. However, if you do it, it's basic math, and you are allowed to use a calculator throughout all of this. And if you need like a gentle reminder from your computer academy teacher and or maybe your math teacher that's within your cohort, like, hey, Mr. Hawkins, I totally forgot how to calculate fractions. Or how do you do proportions again? Because a lot of that stuff you guys learned back in middle school, and it's okay if you forgot and you need a refresher. So you essentially are going to click continue, and you're just going to answer these questions. And guys, especially with consumer math, I highly suggest that you don't copy and paste the question and then click on Brainly, because 1, that's just going to waste your time because you have to watch the ads, and also half the time Brainly gives you the wrong answer. So instead of, that, like, let's use our time wisely. What a concept. If you're ever curious, like, how many questions you got left to go, you can always click on this down button. And you can always skip a question. Let's say you're having problems with it, and let's say you're also in a computer academy class and you're really struggling with one question. Instead of just staring at it and being like, oh God, and then seeing like, oh man, my teacher's really busy right now, I don't want to bother. Instead of just staring at it and twiddling your thumbs or just spending all your time on Snapchat or other stuff, just click next and go into the next question, and then maybe write down the question or keep in your head. And then when your teacher is available, and or you can have time to talk with a math teacher or an English teacher if you're doing the structure writing class, you can then, get some help with it. When you ask for support or help from your teacher, they're not going to just give you the answer, but they can help break it down for you. So for example, let's just go over number one. Philip has $2,000 and he spends $23.75. He divides the remaining amount equally among his 8 employees. How much does each employee receive? So it's good to maybe read it out loud, especially if you're an auditory learner. Essentially what this question is asking is saying, he has $2,000. He spends some of it. So we have to subtract 23.75 from 2,000. And then whatever that amount is, we then just divide that by 8. And that will give you the answer. So I'm letting you guys also know with this, if you maybe class is almost over and you want to make sure that your progress is saved, you're going to save and exit like that. You're going to click close. As you guys can see, there's this bar up top. I wouldn't pay really any attention to that. However, the more that you complete, obviously, the more you're going to get closer to this. However, what really matters with us and what your teacher's always going to look for is your post-test. However, you got to do the pre-test before you do the post-test. With the pre-test, once you finish it, you answer those 52 questions. And by the way, Unit 1 pretest for consumer math is the only pretest that has that many questions. Every other pretest in consumer math has about 20 questions or less, and every post-test in consumer math has about 27 questions or less. So once you power through the pretest for Unit 1, you're going to be good, and it's going to be very doable, all of it. And I think you guys will be pretty successful in doing it. And the reason why I say that is because I have done consumer math probably 500 times, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling that out of thin air, but actually I wouldn't be surprised if I'd done it at least 300 times already with students. And a lot of them were very successful and they were able to do it pretty much on their own. Some of them needed help from me, and that was completely okay. And yeah, they got through it in pretty good time. So with that, once you complete the pretest, you're going to then close, submit it, and then you should see on this side a percentage point. If it is 75% or higher, you are then able to skip all of this stuff. You don't have to do any of these modules. You can skip all of it, and then you can go straight to the post-test. Click play. See, 27 questions. When you are on a post-test, and let's say you're really nervous or anxious, or this is especially your second time taking this post-test, at least with me, but I'm sure with your other computer academy teachers, if you save and exit on the last question of that post-test, so let's say I'm on question 27, and I really, really want to review it with my teacher, and maybe they're busy right now, or maybe they're not. Regardless of the case, you're going to save and exit and then ask your teacher and say, hey, can I review these answers with you? And essentially what the teacher can do is look at your answers, look at the answer key. Maybe you'll be sitting back down and working on other work, or you'll be sitting on the side, and the teacher's just going to write maybe on a piece of paper, or perhaps text you on Remind if they want to remain, digital, or whatever the case may be. And they can say, hey, you got these questions wrong. In order to get a 75% or higher, you need to go back and look at those questions. If you are already going to get a 75% or higher, I usually just tell that to the kid and I say, yep, you're good. Do you want to correct your wrong answers? And more times than not, they usually say no, because it doesn't matter as long as you get 75% or higher. When a question or when a test is 20 questions, that means you have to get 15 right out of 20, okay? Once all these units are at 75% or higher, and I mean the post-test, that's how your teacher, once every test, the post-test is 75% or higher for each unit. So for consumer math, there are 6 units. Every class is different in Plato. So some classes have 4 units, some classes have 6 units, some classes have 5 or 3. It really just depends on the subject, and it depends on how it was created. Once all 6 post-tests or all unit post-tests are at 75% or higher, this is where then you communicate with your counselor or you communicate with your computer academy teacher and you say, hey, I'm ready to take the end of semester test. And they say, you sure are. And they unlock it and then you're ready to go. With the end of semester test, you also have to get a 75% or higher. I do the option that I do with my students with the post test. If they want to review their end of semester test with me before they submit it, I can do that for them. And that's ultimately up to your computer academy teacher, but I can't see why they won't be able to provide you that opportunity. Okay. So hopefully you guys don't have any other questions or concerns in terms of that. Most things on Plato are just there to help you. And let's also go over, if you get below a 75 on the pretest, that does mean you should go through these modules. However, if the module is green, you're good to go. If the module is, I believe, it's like a star with an E. I don't know if it's a certain color. It might be blue. However, I'm not sure about that. But if there's a star and an E, it means you're exempted. You don't have to do it. If it's an orange, that means that you tried or you attempted to take it, like whether you tried to attempt to take the tutorial, which is what this is, or you tried to do the mastery test. The mastery tests are usually only 5 questions, and you can't save and exit on those 5 questions. So make sure when you're doing the mastery test, you're not spending an exorbitant amount of time to where it'll lock you out. Usually if you're inactive on Plato for a certain amount of time, I don't know exactly, but I think it's at least an hour, if not more. If you're inactive on Plato, it's just going to lock you out. And then this is going to get locked. And unfortunately, you can only unlock this by going through the tutorial or asking your teacher to unlock it. So with all of that, oh, see, here's the colors. So not mastered, that means you attempted to do it and it didn't do so well. Green is completed. Either you did well on it or you're in progress of it. That's what blue is. And gray means started. If you see a star with an E, though, that means that you're exempted. Anything that says discussion or course activity or unit activity, those are things that you have to print out and or talk on. I try to hide all discussions because discussions are not necessary on Plato. However, there are some classes that discussions aren't hidden, so I apologize, but I try to hide most discussions in especially the very common Plato courses. If you're in a kind of a more uncommon Plato course, I apologize if the discussions are not automatically hidden. How you get home, you just click on home. In case, like, let's say you want to check out your other test or your other class rather. And like I said, click on all activities instead. And as you can see with structure, writing, and writer's workshop, there are 4 units. And look, oh, there's pretest unit 1, click play. This one also has 52 questions, which I know it sucks, but it is what it is. And believe it or not, guys, both of these classes, I know that some of the questions are a little heavy, but they're all very doable, especially even if you don't do well in math or if you're not even the best in English. Both of these classes are very doable for Endeavor students. And like I said, if you are struggling or if you need help, or let's say a question doesn't make any sense and you're in a Computer Academy class, ask your teacher. Say, hey, this question doesn't make any sense, and maybe bring your computer over to them or have them come to you, or just tell them where you're on and they can look at it themselves from their own computer. When you are all done, you sign out. And that's pretty much that. Once a course is completed, your Computer Academy teacher or your counselor signs you up for another class if that's necessary according to your credit tracker and your graduation plan. Like I said earlier, I have no problem you guys adding yourself to my remind. So let me just pull that up real quick. If you have the Remind app, you can just find my code or my class, putting in this code at Plato 1920. If you don't have the Remind app, I recommend you download it. But if you don't want to, just text 81010 and you can type in that code and you can be in direct communication with me. If you are in cohort 2, you are more than welcome to see me and come into my classroom. Before or after school preferably, and or during lunch. If you are in cohort 2, if you are not in cohort 2 and you're in cohort 1 and 3, I have no problem still if you see me before or after school or during lunch, but please just stay at my door. Especially if you're a former student of mine and you want to come say hi because I miss you lots. I have no problem with that. Just stand at my door and say, hey, Miss Carol, I had a question about Plato, or, blah, blah, blah. And, we'll talk and I'll help guide you verbally as best as I can. And, or we can talk on Remind. If you guys have any other questions or concerns, your counselor is also a good person to go to, whether it's Mr. Furneaux or Mr. Enley, and as well as your Computer Academy teacher, whether it's me or Mr. Harbert or Mr. Conondike or Mr. Nerwin. They are your Computer Academy teacher. They can help you unlock stuff. They can help support you or explain a question to you. They can unlock the end of semester test with you and proctor that with you. They can do those things as well as add you to classes and all those things. If you're wondering about what amount of time should I use to, on Plato, I would have that discussion with your counselor. However, if you are trying to graduate in December, and you have one or more classes to get done before December, I suggest do it now and not later. And I know that because I have done this for so long. And also I know Endeavor kids very well. And you guys like to procrastinate sometimes. And it's very frustrating and it gives me a lot of gray hair. But it's okay. I forgive you. And I'm used to it by now. However, the more you get done now and the more on top of it you get to it, whether you're graduating in December or May or even next year, the more that you are focused and just drive into it, the better off you will be, the less stressed out you will be. And also it would be way smoother sailing. So I highly suggest you do that. Do not wait till the last minute, because if it's December and you have 5 semesters to get done and you haven't gotten done with one semester yet, unreal. So there's my spiel on Plato. Sorry, this video is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. That's it. Have fun. And if you're a former student of mine, I missed you guys. And also new students, welcome to Endeavor. And that's all I really have to say about that. Okay, I'm going to get off now. Let's end this. Yes. Okay, bye.